time, and TSM's carrying the bot lane.
Thank you very much. I'm here with Doublelift after a successful first win back on TSM over on Cloud9. Obviously a pretty fun series there. Game 2 looked a little dicey, but you guys made it through. What were the expectations kind of moving into this series versus a tough opponent?
I think I just expected Cloud9 to be really good. I heard that they were like practicing for a few weeks before LCS started, where we'd only been practicing for like 6 days. So, I mean, that's just because TSM was at MSI and then I was like transitioning from being a streamer. So I honestly didn't have super high expectations, but practice has been going good. And yeah, like it's like we haven't skipped a beat since last summer.
I have to ask you, obviously you played a little bit on Liquid towards the end of spring, but what has that transition been like, given the low practice time, moving away from streaming and kind of back into the team environment?
Well, on Team Liquid, I think I had to do most of the calls for, macro and rotations and just in general, just directing the team's flow and tempo. But on TSM, I think they have a really great system already, and I'm more like supplementary, and I'll step in when I need to for certain types of like in-game moments. But for the most part, I'm just more focused on like my own individual stuff. Just because it's been a while, I feel like I'm a little bit rusty, the streamer life, and I'm just worried about playing well individually first, and then the team is just like, I don't know, it's like a well-oiled machine,
And has metagame been a concern at all? Obviously, Xayah and Rakan, a very new pair of champions that maybe haven't had as much time to practice against. What are your thoughts on kind of the new champions and playing against Sneaky and Smoothie?
Well, we dumpstered them both games when they played Xayah Rakan, so that was pretty easy. I think it's good. I think Rakan is really strong. Xayah is like, she's really slow tempo champion. Like she pushes lanes, but then she doesn't have any plays. You basically have to get baited by her ulti, and then she can like make a turnaround and play with her feathers. But I think you have to be like pretty bad to walk into all her feathers. So in general, like Rakan, you see those crazy engages where he just like flash and gets like 3 people. But Xayah, I feel like, I don't know, she's a really good scaling champion, but she's pretty bad early.
And final question for you. Obviously, back with Bifrost, you guys haven't played in a little while, but again, looking as dominant as ever in the 2v2. Are you guys still the best duo in the league? What kind of competition do you expect from maybe some of the other bot laners out there, or are you guys already the best again?
I want to play against Arrow and Shady. When I was on Team Liquid, I played against that bot lane, I think. No, wait. I think they might have played Stunt. But I think Arrow has been, he's MVP, and he's been getting a lot of attention for being a really consistent player. But yesterday, he was down like 40 CS in lane, so I feel like he really shines in team fighting comps. But in lane, he can be really easily abused. Like IMT's bot lane, which is also really strong, took their tower at like 6 minutes. So, yeah.
All right, well, best of luck the rest of the way. Thank you very much for the interview, but we're going to throw it back to the analyst desk to wrap up the series.
Thank you very much, Pastry Time. Doublelift and the rest of TSM going to be very happy to kickstart their season with a victory over C9. Again, rematch of the spring finals, and they do it this time around 2-0 fashion, returning to that summer 2016 roster.
Yeah, I mean, you remember the summer finals between the two teams. It was a 3-1 pretty decisively in TSM's favor, so not a great start for C9 here, but it is, first week, and they did play 2 of the stronger opponents in the league, most likely.
Absolutely. I do think a lot of people are going to look at the standings at the end of the day and say, oh my goodness, C9 0-2 start to the season. We have to remember that it's 1 against the first place team and then 2 against the CLG that most people would say on paper is already an upgraded roster from what they had in the spring split. But I want to talk about this TSM victory here because Game 2 did not come as easily as Game 1 did. And we're going to start by taking a look at the final fight to see how it all ended here around the top lane inhib turret.
Right, this is after the kind of turnaround that we saw at a TSM. Now they actually have the advantage in a lot of places, and they get this engage off. You see just Contract's kind of man-moding into the front line by himself, able to get focused down extremely early on. And then Kennen being able to provide a zoning ultimate. This is one of the differences you see between AD carry.
Advantages throughout the game themselves, and that will raise some concerns around whether or not they understand exactly how to close games out in the current meta. I mean, we heard the discussion around Xayah and Rakan, Doublelift saying that he doesn't feel necessarily that Xayah is all that powerful, and it does require, you to kind of walk into her ultimate of all things. But that could also be to a degree people not having figured out the champion fully yet and understanding how to push her advantage.
Right, I mean, that's definitely the case where that's the most obvious way to play her is you kind of kite back, your feathers lay on the ground, you pull through the whole team, it's really strong. But we saw when CLG was playing it, they're actually using it more as a combination tool. Orianna groups everyone up, you throw the ult on the top and pull everything back in. If we see more of those kind of follow-up engage tools where you get some extra CC and damage over the top of a primary engage, that might be a little bit better. Here, they didn't really have that quite on the side of C9. It's a lot of displacement tools and splitting fights up.
And while Xayah doesn't seem to be quite figured out yet, I feel like Rakan has been utilized to great success by a few players. I mean, even in the losses here, I think that Smoothie has had some tremendous engages and follow-ups on engages. So just a small shout out to him as he's mastering that champion. But now I want to return to the beginning of the game and see how it developed, because on the outside of the day, we're talking about, hey, Jensen versus Bjergsen, and referencing the Echo game 5 of Spring Split. Well, guess what? We get the Echo here again, and 3 minutes in, first blood to TSM.
Yeah, and this was similar to what we saw actually in that previous series, where sometimes Jensen just plays a little too far up in the lane. Echo, being a melee champion, if he wants to trade, sometimes has to take those risks, but it feels like occasionally he can lose track of Sven, excuse me, and that's one of the things that's always so good about Jensen, is he can absorb jungle pressure. It seems like against Bjergsen, whether it's because Bjergsen's pressuring him a little bit more, or maybe it's a little bit of a mental block, he does seem to get caught out in laning phase a little bit more than normal.
So while things start to go downhill in the mid lane for C9 here, we got to jump to the top lane and take a look at a matchup that was going Haunter favored in game 1, and now here we have Ray with the solo kill at 6 minutes into the game.
Yeah, Ray starts this game out great. We were talking about how he needs to get more done on his own, and I mean, he's able to get this solo kill into Haunter. It's a really close chase down. What's funny enough is it's the time that he's on the tank that he's able to start generating his own leads here, and then he also got a little bit of jungler attention as well, because Contracts made his way up there again for a repeat kill. So a little bit better that time out of the top side, and as a result, things were looking really good for C9.
And again, I think that those replays only go to show that from game to game, these players actually match up very well, right? One game you've got Haunter winning, one game you have Ray winning. So although in the the microcosm of a single game, you can say, oh my goodness, Ray, what's happening? You're getting crushed by Haunter. You've got to go ahead and look at it as a whole across the series and say, hey, they're more evenly matched than a lot of people might think. Finally, I want to return to our last replay, and this is where you were talking about TSM wrestled control back from C9 around the Baron.
It's just a little bit of a misplay on their comp. One, great arrow to snipe out Sneaky, and Bjergsen's able to insta-kill him, and that basically ends the team fight by itself, but it's not helped by the fact that half of C9 went over the wall, and then there's just no way really for the backline of C9 to help out sometimes. Contracts can't get over the wall. He's stuck in the pit while they're trying to do that. And no one really got onto the carry. So even though they're going over the wall and you're messing with the enemy team's jungler, making it so Sven can't steal, you're exposing your own backline to TSM's backline. So it was a slight over-focus on making sure that the Baron was safe and not really like, are we safe?
Exactly. Player of the game going to Bjergsen this time around for taking control of what a lot of people call to be a counter matchup. Of course, Sensiren did visit in the jungle, but even there, zeroing out the AD carry, securing the Baron in that team fight when the smites weren't coming through. So a lot of clutch plays by him.
Yeah, there were a lot of skirmishes over the course of this game. We highlighted a fair amount, but there was that whole time, basically up until that 30 minutes, where C9 was in control of this game, and Bjergsen was kind of being a little bit of a bastion in the mid lane, holding on, able to keep the game close, and finally, at the very end, with the help of Doublelift, kind of turning it completely in TSM's favor.
TSM still has one more series left to play this weekend. C9, though, done with week 1 already in 0-2. I want to get your preliminary thoughts on the roster. Of course, they played Ray in both series, while Impact is just returning to the US.
I mean, like we said, it's not really a sky is falling concern. We're like, oh, C9's not good anymore. Like, obviously TSM, probably the best team in the league right now. CLG, still trying to figure out exactly where they are. They are 2-0 right now. They do look good with Dardoch, and he's not even playing that well yet, so CLG could improve. But that said, if you are a C9 fan, you're a little concerned just because are you going to improve so much more than TSM and CLG that you're going to catch up and become the best team? They struggled to improve a little bit last year where they started really great and kind of held that form throughout the whole season. And so if they do that again, you're a little concerned that they get left in the dust.
Especially considering that TSM, again, swapped back into their stronger roster while C9 doesn't make any changes. Well, we close the books here on NALCS 1. We're going to toss you guys over to NALCS 2 where Envy and Dignity